Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I thought in today's video it would be fun to talk about all the books I read in Q1. So Q1 consists of January through March. So far in Q1 I've read 17 books, which is amazing for me. I think last year I only read 3 or 4 books. In January I read a total of 4 books. I started off the year with the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy and I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of my favorite series of this year so far. I gave the first book 4 stars. I loved it so much. I loved the world and the characters. It was such a fairy tale book. The second book of the trilogy, I gave it 5 stars. It is my favorite book of the trilogy. There's so much going on, so many twists and turns, and I just loved our 2 main characters working together. The last book of the trilogy, I gave it 4 stars. Even though it was my least favorite book of the series, I still enjoyed it a lot. I wasn't the biggest fan of Apollo, and he was annoying at some times, but I absolutely loved Evangeline and Jax. Every time they were together, I'm like, please remember him. We did get a happy ending, which I like, but I wish we got to see them more together in the end being happy. I'm hoping we could get another book or at least a novella. The last book I read in January was Onyx Storm. It was one of my most anticipated releases and I did give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed the journey that they took in trying to find Adarna's kind. There were so many different twists and turns in that journey alone. So much going on in the book, which I absolutely love. I'm still not over the ending and I do have a lot more questions. Hopefully that will be answered in the 4th book. In February, I read a total of 6 books. 4 of them were physical books and 2 of them were read on my Kindle. I started off the month by reading The Inheritance Games. I gave it 5 stars. This was definitely one of my favorite reads of the month. This was my first mystery book and I really enjoyed the genre. I loved all the riddles, the secret passageways, all the clues that they had to uncover. The second book I read was The Hawthorne Legacy. I did give this book 4 stars. This is the second book of The Inheritance Games. I did like it. There was so much going on. A lot more riddles to solve, but it also felt like everyone was after Avery. The third book I read was The Final Gambit and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the book. I think this was the perfect conclusion to Avery's story. Just like the other 2 books, this book had so many different puzzles to solve. What I liked about this one is that the puzzle wasn't left by the grandfather, it was left by someone completely different that wanted something from them, so it was more high risk. The 4th book I read was Avalon Tower. This is a Fae Spy Academy and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the book. I haven't read a Fae Spy Academy or a spy book in general. I like that it was very fantasy, but we also got the aspect of the spy world. I was hooked by this book. I loved the FMC. We got to learn more about her and that she discovered she has powers and now she got to learn how to use them. So we got a lot of training scenes, which I love. The 5th book I read was Veil of Dreams. This is the second book of the Avalon series and I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. I really enjoyed the last one, but this one was even better. Our FMC infiltrates the enemy's territory by acting as the villain's mistress, and I was hooked. There was so much spying going on, and the cliffhanger at the end, hooked. I can't wait to read the 3rd one that just came out. The last book I read was The 7-Year Split. This was my first romance read of the year and I gave it 3 stars. The concept of the book is really interesting. I don't think I've seen any book with this concept. She's 7 years in the future, he's 7 years in the past, and they're living in the same moment within the apartment. So that was really cool. But it did take me a while to get into the book. I think it got only really interesting for me when I got through the halfway mark. In March, I read a total of 7 books and it was a heavy Kindle Unlimited month. The first book I read was Rival Darling. This is a YA hockey romance and I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I loved both characters, especially our MMC. He was so sweet and caring and patient and he really liked our FMC. I haven't read many romance books, but the ones I have been hockey romances, and I love them so much. The second book I read was Shades of Power. I did receive this as an ARC and I gave it 3 stars. The magic system was really interesting. You got your power based off your shade. This was also a why choose romance. This was my first why choose. I don't think I'm the biggest fan of a why choose romance, but overall the book and the concept of it was really cool. The third book I read was Trial of the Sun Queen and I gave it 4 stars. There's something about books with trials that I love so much, and in this one it's 10 women, 1 deadly contest, and that has me hooked. And Lore was such an interesting character, and there was something about her. You're like, there's something more to her that we're gonna learn more in the next book. The fourth book I read is Rule of the Aurora King. This is book 2 of Trial of the Sun Queen, and I gave it 4 stars. In this book, we really got to learn more about Lore and who she is and who her ancestors were, and I love that we got so much information about her. And this book was Enemies to Lovers, which I love. This book was heavy on the character building and the plot building. I also enjoyed that we got to see Lore's siblings and having them be part of the story. The fifth book I read is The Third Ring. I did receive this as an ARC and I rated it 5 stars. I loved this book. This was one of my favorite ARCs that I've ever received. This book has trials, so obviously I'm gonna love it. This book had a lot of trials, a lot of training, and a crazy cliffhanger. I am still not over the cliffhanger, and I'm gonna need book 2 ASAP because I need to know what happens next. The sixth book I read this month was Fate of the Sun King. This is the 3rd book of Trial of the Sun Queen, and I gave it 4 stars. In this book, we had several different POVs. I love seeing what all the characters are thinking and what they're doing, especially when they're all split up. In this book, we got to see Lore have more control on her powers. We also got fated mates and a crazy cliffhanger, so I can't wait to start book 4. Last book I read this month was Vicious, and I gave it 3 stars. This book is not really a book I would have picked up, but this was one of my book club's pick of the month. This book is much darker than the books I usually read. The characters were very psychotic and all crazy. I did like that we had all the characters' POVs, both in the present and the past, so we got to see why they were the way they are and why they had these motives. These are all the books I read in Q1. I can't wait to see all the books I read in Q2, so make sure you keep an eye out for that video when it comes out.